Adobe recently released Illustrator for the iPad. I've had a little time to get to know it, and I am really enjoying it. So, I want to take a minute to introduce you to Adobe Illustrator on the iPad. After downloading it from the App Store, go ahead and open it, and you're immediately taken to a login screen. I've already logged in, so I'm going to skip that step. However, after logging in, you'll see this screen or something similar to it, which is very similar to the same screen you'd see after opening Illustrator on the desktop. You see custom artboards in the center here. You see your recent files. On the left-hand side, you see a folder for your work, which is your Adobe Creative Cloud folder, as well as a Learn option to watch other videos to help you get more familiar with the product, and then a Discover tab that allows you to see work that other people are doing and give you ideas for your work. I'm going to go back to Home, and I want to open this recent project that I've been messing around with just to show you some quick features. Now, one of the cool things about this Adobe Illustrator for the iPad is that it's very familiar right away, but there's also some icons that are quite a bit different from the icons you're used to seeing in Adobe Illustrator on the desktop. For example, on the right-hand side, you see the layers in the top right corner, and then you also see below that a new icon for the transform panel. So this transform panel looks a little different than it does on the desktop. If you know what I'm talking about, the desktop has kind of like a box with 9 different points, one on each corner, one in the middle of each side and top and bottom, and then one in the exact center. However, the transform icon looks a little different. If I were to select an object on the screen, then the transform panel becomes active for that object. And so as I move this around, you can see that the X and Y coordinates change as well. If I were to adjust the size of this square, you can see that the width and the height changed. Now, let's say I wanted to have that square be perfectly square. You'll notice that the width and the height are now different. So what I want to do is just undo that. It takes me back to a square, if that makes sense. So kind of funny. Anyways, notice in the bottom left-hand corner, this circle icon here. You can see it blinking on the screen. What I'm doing is I'm tapping that with my thumb. And if I were to hold that down while I adjust a corner, it is going to constrain the size of that square to be in perfect proportion to the size it was. The width is going to be the same as the height, making it a perfect square. So I'm going to let that go here and release the circle in the bottom left-hand corner, and you can see that the width and the height are the same. Now, one more cool thing about this little circle is if I push it down and then pull outward toward the edge of the circles, you notice how it got a little big. Now when I adjust this square, it's going to adjust from the center of that object. And so I can reduce it in size, and the proportion is going to remain constrained, but it is adjusting it from the center of that object. So I'm going to let that go. The next icon below is the precision panel. This is what allows you to snap the object to other objects. So if I were to deselect Smart Guides and move this around, you'll notice I don't see those purple guidelines. But as soon as I select that, you see the guidelines, and I can align this object to different parts of other objects. And so if I align it right here, the center of the square is aligned to the top of that text. So I'll just release there. You can also have a grid overlay of your work, which allows you to move this around in relation to a grid. If you are using the grid, it is a good thing to snap to grid so that when you move this around, you can see that the top and the left edges are snapping to the grid lines that you can see. I'm going to turn off snapping and turn off the grid. Moving along, and since this is an introductory video, I want to jump over to the pen tool, which you'll find on the left-hand side of the interface. And this is a beautiful tool on the iPad. It really is amazing. All you do is tap and you create anchor points. Keep tapping and voila, you've got a shape. It really is amazing using the pen tool on the iPad, where all you have to do is simply tap on the screen to create those anchor points and then re-tap. We'll take a quick look at that again here in a second, but I want to touch on manipulating those anchor points and the objects themselves once you have them on the screen. For example, right now you can see that the lower left anchor point on this object is dark blue. And what I want to do to manipulate that further is use the direct selection tool or the anchor point tool, which is directly above the pen tool on the left hand nav. So when I tap that, you'll notice that a little tiny toolbar displays right below my object. I'm going to hide the precision panel real fast so you can get a better look at that. And what it's doing is it's saying, hey, here's a quick toolbar for you that will modify the anchor point you have selected. So for example, if I want this anchor point to be a rounded anchor point, I just simply have to tap the rounded icon. And now I have a rounded anchor point. And I can drag those handles out and adjust that anchor point as needed and move it around on the screen until I have it just right. Now, the cool thing about this is the circle in the lower left corner again. Let's say I don't want this anchor point to be a continuously round anchor point. I want it to be a corner with curved line segments. So what I'd do is I'd tap and hold on the button in the bottom left corner, and then I would adjust an anchor point, and what it's doing is it's making this corner a corner, but it's making the line segment a curved line segment. And then I can adjust the other anchor point independently of that first one that I moved a second ago. This allows us to do some really cool things with our anchor points that we're used to doing on the desktop, but now we can easily do them without clicking on the anchor point and then going up to the top of the interface and tapping the convert anchor point tool. It's all just right here next to the objects or the anchor points that we're already working with. So it's really fun and really intuitive to work in this type of environment. Directly above the anchor point tool is the selection tool, and this allows you to grab the whole object and move it around on the screen, similar to what we were doing at the beginning of this video. The selection tool, the anchor point tool, and the pen tool, already you're starting to see a bunch of the powerful options that you have available to you with Illustrator on the iPad. Let's take a look at this object at the center top. This object has no fill color, no color in the center of it, but it does have a color around the outline or stroke of the object. So we do have a color for that. If I wanted to add a color to the center, all I have to do is have the object selected and then tap the fill icon on the left hand toolbar, and this color panel is pretty awesome. I can choose some of these more common swatches and change that fill color, or I can tap directly in the hex code. I get a unique keypad that allows me to quickly type in hexadecimal format for colors. And I can't mess that up because I only have A, B, C, D, E, F, and then the numbers 0 through 9. Awesome use of the interface, use of the iOS platform. So I'm going to remove this fill. Now to do so, I still have the fill selected. The icon to the lower right of the color wheel is the no fill, so I'm going to tap that. And now I don't have a fill anymore, but I still want the outline. Problem is if I were to adjust this object to any size, the stroke is remaining the same size, which is 5 points. Now to find that size, I would tap on the transform panel on the right hand side and look at the bottom where it says stroke 5 points. Well, what if I wanted that stroke to grow in size as I made the object grow in size? So I'm going to undo the little adjustments that I made. What I want to do is click on the settings gear in the top right and then click on app settings. From app settings, under general, I want to enable scale strokes and effects. And what's going to happen is as I adjust the size of an object, the stroke of that object will adjust as well. Now, while I'm in here, I want you to notice that you can change the color theme. Just tap the drop down menu for color theme, and you have the option of lightest, light, and dark. I'm going to choose dark for the rest of this video, and then I'm going to close this window, and we'll see how the object now scales the stroke as I adjust the size. So I'm going to hold down this button in the bottom left corner, and I'm going to make this bigger, and you can see that the size of the stroke is obviously getting bigger. So I'm going to let that go. Going to tap the transform panel, and notice down in the bottom that the stroke is 12.111, and that is scaling with the size of the object itself. So I know I covered kind of a lot in this brief introduction video, but I wanted to show you some of the more powerful aspects of Adobe Illustrator on the iPad. In my next video, I'm going to cover tracing an object on the iPad using Adobe Illustrator, and we'll take a look at tracing this Harry Potter face icon in my next video. Thanks for watching, everybody, and if you're new to my channel, please subscribe and have a great day. Enjoy Adobe Illustrator.